Hello and welcome to the gojenn podcast. This is episode 96. Can you believe it? I can hardly believe it. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me today. I am outside filming because it is a lovely day here in Southern Virginia, and I just feel like, hey, I've got good light, might as well film outside. Today I'm wearing my team captain Ravenclaw Quidditch. Ha! Too cute, right? Too cute? Yeah, like I could play Quidditch. I'm afraid of heights. They'd have to make some kind of a basket underneath the broom if I were going to play Quidditch. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. So I hope that you're going to sit down for a few minutes, watch along with me. I have done some videos on my homemade Swift, my yarn Swift, and my husband felt so sorry for me because he had to help me with it at one point that he made me one. I was just shocked. He said, I made you something today, and it's like, what? Cake? I didn't know. So anyway, I got a new yarn Swift, but that'll be tacked on at the end. Again, I don't know which way is the end. So I hope you're doing well. I know it's not, but I hope you're having some nice weather wherever you are. Let's see. I have very little progress to show you on my yarny projects this time because I had my first ever episode of inner ear or whatever, the dizziness, the nausea, the feeling like I was just going to keel over completely. I had to get my husband to come and pick me up from work, which I've never done, because I knew I couldn't drive. I could barely keep my eyes open. And that was about 9:30 in the morning that I got him to come and pick me up, and I just went straight to bed and laid very still with my eyes closed. And after sleeping and lying very still for several hours, I got up about 2:30 and I was fine. I felt my head kind of was sore, like I'd had a hat on too tight or something. I mean, it was sore, but I was perfectly fine. And so I didn't craft that day, and it took me a day or so to get back in the swing of things. So I have very little, poor projects. And I have to have my sweater sleeve finished by the end of February. So that is my numero uno thing right now. Okay, I don't want to drop any of my double points. But this is my sock number 2. And you see I've started the decreases. Let's see, I have 7 stitches left on the needles, yes. And so once it gets down to 3, that's when I Kitchener the toe together. So I'm doing the toe decreases. This will take, I've only got like another hour to this. So yay me, I'm excited about it, but the sweater is the thing that I don't know how it's gonna go. I want to get it done. I want it to be done. It's way too hot for a sweater today, but I know we'll have some more cool days. Plus I know that winter is coming again. Even if it's spring tomorrow, winter is still coming. So I caked up another skein of the Malabrigo, and then I just wound some cotton thread around it to kind of hold it in shape. But that was a lot of winding, and I had a lot of trouble with it because this is a pure merino single. Okay, there's the sleeve. And last time, I think I told you I had made this much progress in 1 week. I lied. Where that progress keeper is where I started. And so that's how much I've gotten done. Today's the 12th of February. Did I say that already? It's the 12th of February, and this is episode 96. I wrote it down. That's how come I know. And I have switched to 2 sets of circulars to do this. Because the 9-inch or the smaller one circular just wasn't doing it. Let's see if I can get it so you'll see. You can see, I hope. Oh, that's not purple. It's a deep wine color. I don't know. I'm sorry. But there's the other sleeve. That's my March sleeve. And this is the February sleeve that I'm supposed to finish by the 28th. And I have got to put everything else away and just focus on this sweater, getting that sleeve. I've got so many other things I want to work on. Oh, it's driving me crazy. I want to work on my 10-stitch Tunisian. I want to, well, I've got to get my yo-yo blanket finished by the end of February as well. That's what you get for having deadlines. But deadlines is the only way I'll get it done. I don't know if you're like that, which I know that some, let me segue into one of my topics, which is thriftiness. I think I told y'all last time that I'm attempting to do the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University. I'm not doing the classes or anything. I'm just reading the book and watching tons of videos on YouTube. And so I'm trying to do that. And then I watched some other podcasts, and the people, you know, they cast on 4 pair of socks in a week, and every skein they're using is over $20 a skein. So those socks are costing minimum $20, if not $35. And which I think that's fine for something special. You know, if these are the socks for my daughter and I'm good enough to use the good stuff, yeah. But I've had to kind of make a little bargain with myself that I can be happy with cheap yarn. Or not, and I don't mean to say cheap. I mean to say not the best, beautifulest, indie dyed yarn. That kind of makes me sad because I love the feeling of a really nice yarn. My socks are being knit with Peyton's Croy, which is a big box store sock yarn, and it's not all that soft, it's not squishy, it's just sock yarn, you know, with wool and nylon to help it last. My sweater is being knit out of Malabrigo. When I saw that the Malabrigo was on sale 2 or 3 years ago, I bought the sweater's quantity of it, and I still feel pretty good. This is not going to be a $150 sweater. And Malabrigo, even for all of its wonderful, squishy, perfection, is not so expensive. You can catch that on sale at a lot of different places. You have to watch for it. So that's one of my financial things that I've agreed to is, first, I'm going to knit from stash or crochet from stash. That's the idea. Use up everything I have. And then from there, I'll just see, you know, what I need from there. But I'm not going to make a purchase unless it is for something specific. And then I'm going to try to go with something on the less expensive side, especially because my knitting skills are still lacking. I would say I'm not a beginner anymore, but I'm not intermediate yet. So I'm kind of advanced beginner or beginning intermediate. I don't know what we'll call me. But so I'm going to try to be thrifty with my yarn purchases in the future. I'm going to watch those podcasts where they pull out the gorgeous $30 skeins of yarn. I'm gonna say, wow, that's beautiful. Yes, those are beautiful socks. But I'm okay with trying to be thrifty. So that's another thing that I'm going to try to incorporate in the podcast, which I haven't bought any yarn this year, so yay me, it's almost Valentine's. So I am trying to be thrifty to save money, and along that line I have closed my Etsy shop, Stitchy Markers. I haven't had sales that would make me happy to continue with it, so I have decided to close the shop. I'm trying to figure out how to de-stash quite a few things, especially planner things. If you have any good ideas on how to de-stash, can I do that on, I can't do it out of my Etsy store. I think I can do it on Instagram. I'm not sure. Just kind of like take a picture, this is what I'm selling, and if you'd like it, this is what it costs. Because I've got some stamps and some papers and things like that that I'm ready to de-stash. So let's see. Just on the Dave Ramsey kind of vein, I have been reading his book, and the first thing that his first baby step to becoming debt-free is to have $1,000 emergency fund. And emergency is unexpected, unplanned for, and unknown. And because he says, like, a furniture sale is not an emergency, a clothing sale is not an emergency, and I guess he would probably tell me an Etsy sale's not an emergency. Rats. So I'm working on baby step 1. Baby step 2 is to pay off debt using the snowball method. And if you're not familiar with that, that's when you list out all your debts, or both of them, or ever how many you have, and you make the minimum payment on all but the smallest. You pay the smallest off, and then whatever you were paying on that goes now to the next smallest. And then that way you continue to make the minimum payments on everything else, but your debt will snowball away. So I'm excited to do that. And I think I had my hitting the bottom point this past week. Tuesday, you know, I had that sick headache thing, and I just was feeling awful, and then I'm trying to figure out where's the money going, what can I do. And so now I feel better about it, now that I feel like I've taken control, because that's one of Dave's things. If you don't tell your money what to do, it'll leave. I think that's the way it is. And the budget is the way you tell it what to do. So I'm working on it, and I'm happy with my progress. So let me see. At the end of this, I'm going to do the little, it's a bunch of clips of me winding this Malabrigo yarn and using my homemade DIY yarn swift. So you'll get to see how that was. This is not my original idea. I stole it from somebody years ago, and I don't know who it was, but it's not my original idea. But it works. Okay, it works. So enjoy the yarn swift, and until I see you next time, I wish you nothing but love and laughter. Okay, so this is my DIY yarn swift, and everything I need for winding a skein of yarn. This is the Knit Picks brand of yarn ball winder, and it's not that expensive. I did have an electric one, and I did not like it because I find that it's easier to manage the speed that it winds if you do it by hand, and that's lucky. Okay, hold on, let me move him. Okay, so then what you need are 4 plastic coat hangers, And I've seen them duct taped or tied or rubber bands or something, but you have to have some way to hold them together. So there's 4 of them. And then you need a box that's this size. What size is it? It is about 7 inches, 7.5 inches square. And there are 2 clothespins on each corner. And I have some extras in case I need extras. Down in the bottom. Yes, this is a priority mailbox. I can still use it. And it came to me, so it's not. Then this is a Lazy Susan. You can, I think you can use either side up, but I find it easier to use this side up. And then I sit my box on top of the Lazy Susan part so that it'll spin. Okay? Now, the hard part is to do the clothes hanger thing one-handed. Okay, we're going to try this. You have your 4 clothes hangers. You put the hanging ends in the middle of the box. And then you put 1 clothes hanger in between each of the 4 clothespins on the corners of the box. Okay? You might have to fuss a little with it to get it to lean straight, but that's all you do. And then you take your expensive yarn, because cheap yarn comes already wound. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the yarn off and wind it with my regular ball winder. And I'm going to do that by hand. Okay, thanks. Okay, I've mentioned how sometimes the really nice yarns stick to themselves, and see how this is, it's really sticking. So if you were trying to do this with a electric yarn winder, it just wouldn't work. It might work for something else, but not for this. Where did I put my ball winder? Okay, so to do this, you thread your yarn on here through the little yarn guides, and it is important that it goes through the yarn guides. Ask me how I know, and I will tell you I have made many a mess. Okay, it has these little ridges at the top, and I usually go in again just because I don't ever trust it. And this is supposed to be a center pull ball, but who knows? We'll see what we get. Okay? So I've already unstuck some yarn, and I'm going to slowly let it fall out of the little things. Wasn't that good? Okay. In the yarn guide so it will pull correctly. And I'm just gonna, this is where it was knotted on the skein. I'd like to, but anyway, okay. Try to line it up so that there are no knots in the way, and just slowly, I mean, maybe if you have a different kind of yarn, it may not stick together so bad. And this Malabrigo has been in my stash for 2 years now. Okay. And you see it just comes on the yarn winder. And sometimes I give it a little help. And also sometimes it gets out of whack like going around the ball winder or going around the Swift. And this is just stuck, the yarn is stuck to itself, which is a good thing for the finished garment, but not so much for winding the yarn. Okay, you get the idea that this is how it's supposed to work. Is this better than doing it by hand? Yes, it's still better, I think, because it's so slow, and I don't have anybody that will sit and hold the skein of yarn for me while I wind it. I wouldn't mind doing that, but I don't have anybody that'll do that. Okay, so anyway, I am going to continue winding, and hopefully I'll be back with a finished skein. Okay, I am probably 3/4 to 80 or 90% of the way done with my yarn ball winding on my homemade yarn Swift. But I did want to show you one of the reasons that I'm having problems. If you see this whole bundle, this was all kind of felted together, and I've been just pulling on the yarn itself is not enough to detach it so that I could wind it. I've had to put the winder down and sometimes separate those strands of yarn because they are so well stuck together. Excuse me. There. They just don't want to go. A couple times I've been able to get up some speed and actually do this the way it's supposed to be done, but the yarn inevitably is stuck to itself somewhere, and it'll just stay there. And so if I keep going, it's just going to pull everything out and make a huge mess. So like these pieces, you know, just pulling. Sometimes, yeah, it'll separate it, but sometimes not, and then I have a mess. And the reason I'm being so careful is that I had a skein of Malabrigo sock yarn. It was nowhere near this sticky, but I was winding a ball by hand when something scared me. I dropped the ball or went to run and do something. I don't remember what it was. And when I came back, the dogs had gotten into the skein itself, and it took me probably 30 or 40 hours of winding to get that thing unknotted and wound back. So it's still not too bad, and I'm getting close to the finish line. And there you have it, my skein of this Malabrigo Rustida and Cerisa. We want to know why it was so sticky. Let's read the tag. Pure merino wool, slightly felted, 310 yards per skein in a single. So, that explains that. But, you know, I bought this yarn 2.5 years ago to start the sweater, and I didn't know then as much, or as I don't know that I know that much more about yarn. There's so many kinds, so much to know. But anyway, this is what I'm making my sweater out of. And so it probably will felt. I don't mind. You know, I love this sweater, and I'm proud that I've made it. And there's my Swift ready to go back into the cabinet. And if you're wondering, okay, so you pop for the $20 for the Knit Picks ball winder. Why won't you pop? I think the Knit Picks Swift is about $50, maybe 60 or 70 even. And that's why, because I don't use this often enough to warrant paying that much money. For $50, I could get a lot of yarn. And I only use this maybe 7 or 8 times a year, so it just doesn't justify the purchase to me. And this works fine. This was a super sticky yarn. Most other yarns are not that bad and work a whole lot better. So anyway, this is my short crash course in DIY Yarn Swift, and hooray, it's finished. Well, after me fussing about winding that yarn the other day, my husband had this for me today. He made not a lazy Susan, he made a Yarn Swift. And I can take it apart, so the final packing size will be this by the bottom X. And then the rest of it I'll be able to just store. So now I need I need a skein of good yarn to put on this so I can be special now. There's Bella. Hey, Bella. She has a little rawhide chewy that she's chewing on. Lucky, how are you doing? Have you got a chewy? No, he's got something on his foot that he is licking. So, the tale of the Yarn Swift.